DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is one of the most powerful psychedelics known to humanity. And in this video, I'm going to share why this substance has changed my life forever, and why I'm now convinced that DMT is a key to unlocking new discoveries about some of life's greatest mysteries. I'm also going to discuss some of the fascinating similarities between DMT experiences and near-death experiences. Mainstream science, of course, tells us that DMT and near-death experiences are nothing more than hallucinations in the brain. But in this video, I'm going to present some undeniable evidence that there is much more to this mystery. There is much more to the mystery of consciousness than we currently understand. So while I am not at all trying to glorify or promote the use of DMT, which is an illegal and potentially dangerous substance, I very much think that this is a topic that needs to be explored and discussed in a safe and responsible manner. So let's get into it. On my previous DMT videos, I get a lot of comments that go something like this. Bro, this is a drug that causes hallucinations. Hallucinations are just that. Nothing you saw was real. I'd like to try it, but it's really just a hallucination from a chemical. Dude, you were high. DMT is awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's just hallucinating. Or as this one person put it, you goddamn hippies. Well said, my friend. I can almost guarantee that every single one of these people posting this comment have not tried DMT for themselves, because one of the most commonly reported descriptions or characteristics of the DMT experience is that it feels intensely real. It feels more real than this lifetime. As bizarre as that sounds, that was one of the key findings of the research of Dr. Rick Strassman.
People under a high dose of DMT in our work, they repeatedly and uniformly say the experience is more real than real. It's the most real thing that's ever happened to them.
And to quote Dennis McKenna, life itself is a drug experience. Every waking moment that we have is a chemically mediated process. So there's no reason to instantly assume that ordinary consciousness is more valid or more real than a drug experience, because in a sense, it's all a drug experience. And just because we spend more time on this channel doesn't mean that the other channels of experience aren't real. With all that being said, I now want to continue this discussion by saying a few words about the DMT experience. And after having tried DMT personally on more than 50 different occasions, I still struggle to put this into words or describe what this experience feels like. This is one of the most intense and rapid shifts in consciousness that can possibly be imagined. Within a few seconds, a few heartbeats of inhaling the DMT vapor, you notice it immediately. It feels as though every cell in your being begins vibrating with an intense energy, like the life force in your being has been turned up to max volume. And if you take a sufficient dose, what happens next, again, is truly indescribable, but it's commonly known as a DMT breakthrough, because it feels as though you break through into a different reality. And the best way to describe it is that it feels as though consciousness or your soul or spirit has left the body, is traveling, and you move through some kind of inner portal and emerge on the other side in what feels like a different realm of existence, a different dimension, like an alternate reality beyond this physical universe. It feels like you have left this reality behind temporarily, and you're just this pure consciousness, this pure energetic being that is traveling through a different place, a different realm, a different dimension. There's an incredibly broad range of different types of DMT experiences, but one of the most commonly reported characteristics that is reported in almost every DMT experience is that when you emerge in these other realms or dimensions, we encounter beings. These alternate realms and dimensions are inhabited by all types of strange and bizarre creatures. Sometimes they are described as machine elves or gnomes or these kind of mischievous jester-like figures. In other cases, they seem to be more like an advanced extraterrestrial race of beings. In other cases still, they seem like angelic spiritual beings and just as likely they can seem like demonic beings. Now, as wild and bizarre as that all sounds, keep in mind that in the experience itself, it feels more real than real. It feels intensely real. And probably any of you out there who have tried this experience for yourselves are nodding your head along like, yep, as strange as that all is, that is what it feels like. Now, I also want to say that DMT experiences are not always felt to be these profound spiritual experiences. DMT is not an inherently spiritual experience, but it is very much true that a significant percentage of people who have tried DMT report these incredibly profound mystical experiences. And speaking from my own experience, on a handful of cases, some of the most memorable DMT experiences I've ever had, there was this overwhelming, undeniable feeling that DMT in this moment was showing me what I could only describe as some sort of heavenly afterlife. And it felt like a direct encounter with the infinite. Dr. Rick Strassman, after all his years of research administering more than 400 doses of DMT in a clinical setting, concluded that DMT exists in our brains in order to act as a spirit molecule, which allows consciousness to travel out of the physical body and gain access to non-material realms. Now, whether or not you agree with that idea, this brings us back to the fascinating similarities between DMT and near-death experiences. And researchers and psychonauts have long since recognized that these experiences are so remarkably similar that it's often almost impossible to differentiate between the two. For example, this article out of the Imperial College of London is called DMT Models the Near-Death Experience. And to quote from the article, the researchers found a significant overlap in nearly all of the NDE phenomenological features and striking similarities when comparing DMT to near-death experiences. And I have to commend the authors here for putting out this fascinating research into the world, and I'll include a link to the article below for anyone interested. Just like with DMT, near-death experiences are characterized with very similar terms and descriptions. For example, people report that their near-death experience felt like an out-of-body experience where they left the body this lifetime behind, traveled through some sort of tunnel or a portal, emerged in a different transcendent realm or dimension of existence beyond the physical universe. They encountered beings, in many cases gained new insights about the mysteries of life and their purpose here on planet Earth. And these are just some of the similarities. Now, it's worth noting that there are also some significant differences between DMT and near-death experiences, and those differences is something that I can explore more in a future video. But for the time being, the point remains that there are undeniable similarities and parallels here between the descriptions, characteristics, and themes that arise in near-death and DMT experiences. And this is really fascinating. This begs so many questions because there's no obvious reason why these two very different experiences should be linked. Especially considering that they emerge out of incredibly different circumstances. What do you guys make of this? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Please leave them in the comment section below. We know that DMT is naturally produced in the human body. That's been scientifically proven. And this has led some researchers to theorize that in times of extreme stress around death, the brain may release high levels of DMT, which then trigger these near-death experiences. And it's an interesting theory, but there's not yet any scientific evidence to back that up or support that theory. And this still leaves us with many questions. Why is it that hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world describe these altered states of consciousness in the exact same way, using the same descriptions and the same characteristics? If these were all just hallucinations, everyone would have a unique experience. You would expect extreme variability in different types of these hallucinations, and you would never expect this remarkable consistency, especially across different social, cultural, and religious backgrounds. But what we find is that regardless of social, cultural, religious background, regardless of what time period the individual has lived in, everyone describes these altered states of consciousness in incredibly similar ways. And this is building towards a consensus. And this is not really news. Like, these are not new ideas. If you go back to the 1960s, you have people like Alan Watts discussing the remarkable similarities between psychedelic experiences and spiritual experiences. And that's why, to go back even further, our ancestors have used psychedelics for thousands of years in their spiritual and shamanic practices. And all of these shamanic traditions from all over the world, they all universally agree that these altered states of consciousness can be a key to getting us in touch with the divine, to opening our minds and our hearts to a bigger awareness, a bigger picture understanding of the mystery of life. At some point, we have to consider that maybe these experiences of other realms and dimensions and beings are very real in a way that we don't yet understand. If you ask me, that is the very clear conclusion here, that we are multidimensional beings living in a multidimensional existence, that this entire physical universe is only the tiniest tip of the infinite iceberg that is the mystery of life, and we have not yet even begun to scratch the surface. But at this very special time in human history, we are beginning to open up to this broader awareness where we recognize that we are more than just a physical body, and there is more to life than a physical universe. And when we really begin to explore and discover what is beyond, that will change life on earth forever. And so whatever you believe, regardless of what we believe, one thing is clear: we need to continue to investigate these altered states of consciousness, because there is so much to be learned here. This very well could be a scientific breakthrough in our understanding of consciousness, that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but in fact consciousness exists beyond the brain, beyond the physical body, that we are transcendent beings in a temporary human lifetime, and that in this case, truth really is stranger than fiction. Thank you so much as always for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider supporting me on Patreon. It really helps me to continue making videos just like this one. I'm sending so much love to every single one of you out there, and I will see you back here very soon.